basic left-handed grip means that the pulling hand of the right-handed attacker starts lower and has to pull higher. Koga's method, however, is very different. A normal entry, with him stepping across his opponent's body, means that he'll be blocked. So he steps straight through, rotating his hips and his feet, and if his opponent is bent over, he goes in deeper with a greater step and goes lower. Once he's made the point of contact, he then takes his left foot back between the legs in order to get the drive and finish the technique. Koga's lapel grip and the sleeve grip totally dominate his opponent. He then releases the sleeve and drives through for the Seoinage. Notice the right foot when it slides through, and then the left foot that follows, and then the final drive. There is absolutely total commitment into the Seoinage. The final of the Kano Cup in 1987 against Mike Swain shows a perfect competition example of what we've just seen. He dominates the wrist first, he couldn't get the sleeve, but look at the driving action. In the 1986 World Junior Final against Zakharkin of the Soviet Union, Koga has 3 stabs at it, but eventually gets his opponent right the way over the top. Here's the first one. He has to readjust. The Russian does very, very well to avoid that. He grips on the same side of the jacket, but his foot entry is exactly the same.
中学校1年生の時に兄から一本背負いを
As I just said,
教わりました。
I learned Ippon Seoinage from my brother.
ですけど、その一本背負いっていうのが
This was not drop
膝を
seoinage,
つかない
but standing
ままの
Ippon
一本
Seoinage.
背負いでしたから、私にとっては
So
も
it
のす
was
ごく
really difficult to do.
難しかったんですね。ですけど、
But I
まあ
really
どうしても
wanted to
覚えたい
learn
という
it.
気持ちが強くありましたから、
So I pestered my
まあ
brother
兄
to
に
teach it
ど
to
うして
me.
も教えてくれということで教わりました。しかし兄は大変
Well, my brother was really strict about the fundamentals of the technique.
教えてくれましたから、それが
At the
私にと
time,
っ
I
ては
thought
厳し
he was
すぎる
too
ぐ
hard
ら
on
い
me.
に厳しく基本に忠実に
But
教え
he
てくれ
taught
たん
me
です
how
ね
to do the technique strictly in accordance with the fundamental principles.
もう早く覚えないとものすごく怒られてま
Once we
したから。
started, he used to get really angry with me if I was slow at picking it
もっ
up.
ともっと叱られるなと
So I was really anxious to
いう気
master
持ち
it,
があったんで、
so he wouldn't yell at me
ま
anymore.
あ兄に
So
対し
even if
て
at the time
まあ多
I
少
was a little
怖い
afraid of
な
my
と
brother,
思いながら
it's thanks to
早
him
く覚えることが
that I was able to master Ippon Seoinage so quickly.
最初に基本に厳しく
And
教
I
え
am
て
now
もら
very
った
glad
んで、
that he made me pay so much attention to the basics when learning it.
The basic foot movement for Koga's Seoinage requires him to step forward with his right foot so that his toe is directly in front of his opponent's toe and about a foot length ahead. He rotates round on his right foot so that both feet face the same direction, and then he lifts off his toes. The posture at the point of entry requires the attacker to be facing forwards and for the body to be in the same plane with a little gap in order to make contact for the throw. The most common mistake is when the head drops too early and you are unable to get any lift. With your body directly in line with your opponent's, for a brief moment you should be able to look directly ahead into the distance. The upper body should be facing forwards, you should be in the same plane as your opponent, and a small gap between you and your opponent in order to make contact. With the Koga grip, he ensures that he's got the fingers hooked into the jacket underneath the armpit. This then ensures that he can use the arm either for defence or in order to lift up his opponent's arm. If his opponent's arm is over the top, he then moves away and straightens the arm in order to break the grip. If his opponent is bent over, he then uses the elbow to lift up to create space. The right hand is sent hard and upwards underneath the armpit, using the bicep to control his opponent's shoulder. To tighten the hold further, he rotates the hand inwards in order to tighten the bicep. Insufficient right arm control can result in your opponent sliding off the wrong way, or your opponent strangling you for a submission. This wouldn't be possible if you had sufficient control of your opponent's right shoulder. In Koga's Uchikomi, he brings all these elements together, with the right arm being sent tight underneath the armpit, and each time looking forwards and into the distance. And here's a final look at Koga's Ippon Seoinage in the 1987 World Championships, fighting Chang-Soo Lee of Korea for the bronze medal. All the basics come together at the point of entry, but even the great Koga has to make adjustments. The hips pop through, the hand goes down, head goes down, and eventually he scores Ippon.
中学校高校時代からの恩師
I owe a great deal to my teacher during my secondary school days,
今は
Yoshimura
日
Sensei.
本のシドニーオリンピック
He's now the coach of the
女子の
Japan national women's
監督
team.
をしてます吉村先生という方がいらっしゃいますけども、その先生
One
の
of the
教えの
things he
中
taught
で
me
絶対に妥協
was
する
never to compromise.
勝負は諦
The
め
moment
て
you
し
give
まっ
up in
た
a
らそれで終わり
contest
だと。
is the moment you will
だけど
lose.
も諦めなければ必ずチャンスが来るんだと。
If you just don't give up, you will definitely
妥
get
協する
some
なとい
chance
う
to
教え
win.
をいつも受けていました。
So he was always telling me that I shouldn't
私の
compromise.
心の中には
The words of this sensei are always in my mind, that I should never give up on a
勝負に
contest.
おいては
And this is how I have
絶対に
always
諦めちゃいけない
approached
と
a
いうことを
contest.
いつも思いながら勝負に取り組んでいました。